Hello, dear friends, ciuvace, civice, cum îmi place mie să spun în limba română. We are here at another episode of Prepare for Future, and it's a very special one because I've been waiting for this to happen for a while. It's an episode where we don't talk about a specific thing like, gaming or AI or education or whatever. We are going to talk about the future of Moldova. Does it have potential, and what kind of potential? And I thought that there's no one better to ask than people who believe in us most, which is our external strategic partners. One of them today is USA Director in Moldova, Scott Hocklander. Thank you very much for accepting this invitation. It's an honor to have you here.
My pleasure to be here, Alex. Thank you for the invitation. Glad we finally made this happen.
Yeah, it's been a few months. I've been trying to catch you in between all the events that's been happening, We're not going to talk any politics stuff, just so everyone knows, full disclaimer. We're going to talk about good, nice things. We're going to talk about how we can go forward and what's the vision, what's the people behind what we always see, the sticker USA, but not a lot of people actually know what that means. So who else to talk about it than you? But we will start with something, how we connected, actually. We're going to talk about sports. Because you're a big fan of sports, I'm a big fan of sports, and surprisingly, we also like the same one. So when I was in the US, we were constantly being exposed to a lot of content, That content eventually started getting me on a path to a healthy lifestyle. You start questioning the food you eat, your sleeping habits, you get all kinds of wearables, a smartwatch, I have one here, you have one over there. So at one point in life, you discover that you're so concerned about your health that it's your hobby, basically, right?
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation about why health is paramount and the strategy that you apply to have a good physique after 40.
Okay. I really appreciate the fact that you just said after 40. You didn't get into specifics of how old I am.
I said good physique too.
Yeah, that's very, very, very nice of you. I mean, I think for me, I grew up involved in athletics and doing sports and things like that, and I think that was good. But in terms of it actually becoming sort of a lifelong endeavor, it probably goes back to my career after college. I was a wildland firefighter, and so one of the critical aspects of that profession is being in really good physical condition, and so because of that, we basically had to train on a daily basis.
What was your training like?
Well, it was a lot of calisthenics and a lot of running. You actually had to pass a basic fitness test to get
with gear.
With gear and without, and so there was we had to run a mile and a half under a certain time. You had to do a certain amount of pull-ups, push-ups, and sit-ups. And so I was, I was on crews that were, I think, considered more elite, and eventually, became a smoke jumper, which basically you parachute into the fire as a way of getting there. And so the standards for those crews were higher than others. And so through that, I ended up, training with a lot of people who knew what they were doing and helped really push my fitness level, my consciousness about the importance of fitness to a different level. And fortunately, I think, by virtue of going through that, I did that for, I think, around 11 years. It instilled in me the kind of habits that I've maintained since then. And a lot of it has to do, I think, also with just pushing yourself beyond boundaries that you previously known. And once you know that you can exceed those boundaries, then I think it makes it a little bit easier, frankly, to maintain those habits and to incorporate them in your daily life.
I was just watching a new show on Netflix, Human something. I forgot what it's called. It's about breaking through the barriers. And the first story that it starts, it's like a miniseries. The first story it starts with is about a disabled woman. She's an amputee. She's missing one leg. Who went to run at the hardest, craziest marathon in the world, which is the Sahara Ultra Marathon. It's 130 miles, I believe, in the scorching sun for 6 days. And how she's there because she was told she won't be able to walk, she won't be able to run, and here she was at that thing. And what I appreciated most is the fact that she failed. Like halfway in, her whole body cramped up, and she pressed the SOS button and she was removed. And then Another one is a story of Ellen Van Dyke, how she participated in the famous Paris-Roubaix, the first female race that took place last year.
Yeah.
How she fell quite a few times. She also failed. And she's like, is pain a physical or is it an emotional thing? Because right now I feel like it's an emotional thing. But the reason I asked you about this was there's a ongoing belief in, I guess, developing countries, something I discovered here in Moldova. I can't speak about other countries. That health is something that requires a lot of money, and health requires you to have free time. So is that, do you think that's true? That only the elites can afford to do some stuff like that?
I don't think that's true. Certainly, there's some things that are going to be more expensive.
Like cycling.
Getting the bike that we've always wanted. Those prices are kind of out of control. But whatever, you can get a bike that's reasonable. You can get a pair of running shoes, that's reasonable. I understand the challenge of finding free time. I struggle sometimes to find free time myself, but I think it's less those issues and more about the knowledge of how important health is, to people and their lives and how they go about it, And I think maybe going back to your original question, why is it important to me now? Maintaining like a top fitness is incredibly important for me just in my work. It allows me to come in and perform at the level I want, to maintain energy throughout the day, to feel good, with so many people, no matter what you do, stressed out, having a hard time eating, as healthy as they would like to. It really has an impact on you. I mean, it really impacts your energy level, your emotional well-being. All these things are real factors of your fitness. And I think for anyone, no matter what you do, even if you're, engaged in a job where you sit behind a desk or whatever, these things matter. And I think recognizing how much good health can change your day, change your performance, change your relationships with the people that you care about, your general happiness level. All these things are so important. And I think when people do realize that and see that, then they recognize that they have to make time, that it is a priority. And I think most people, can find time, whatever it is. It doesn't have to. It's going to be different for everyone. You don't have to be.
You can do 20 burpees in 5 minutes, and that's more than enough. If you can do 20 burpees.
No, that's right. Or even things like meditation. I think are really critical. Anything that really deals with your mental well-being, the well-being of your body, can have significant benefits.
That's what I try to tell people. Look, if you cannot find 30 minutes in a day just for yourself, then you have to question everything else you do, because we can't live for others. We can't live for our job or for our boss or, loans, whatever. If you want to be able to handle all of that, first you have to take care of yourself, because eventually we break down. We're just like a car whose oil doesn't get changed for a long time. The oil will break down and the car will stop moving.
Yeah, that's right, and it does happen. And again, getting back to aging and what happens as you age, these things become more and more important for. Just for example, stretching and staying active, is a major factor in helping to prevent injury, to keeping you, doing things that you love to do further and further in your life. It becomes more and more important as you get older.
You spent the first 2 years of your mission under COVID restrictions. Not the best time to start a new mission, right?
It was hard. Yeah. I mean, obviously one of the most exciting things about coming to Moldova is getting out and seeing the country. I mean, the people and immersing yourself in the culture. So I got a few months. I was actually fortunate in the sense that I had about 4 or 5 months. I was able to go out and see quite a bit of the country before COVID actually hit. You just got a taste of it, and then they said, "Okay, but that's enough." Lockdown for you. Well, one of the crazy things, Alex, is this is something that affected the entire globe. So many people were going through similar things. I remember that in the U.S. when we still couldn't decide what to do and what not to do. But anyway, when you were under these COVID restrictions, all of us, you used the bike to discover Moldova. Because, when you're alone, you can travel. And how many routes did you check out? I know you've seen quite a lot of Moldova, more than most, actually. Yeah, that's a good question. How many routes? I mean, I think for a lot of people, one of the few things you could do was to go outside, and oftentimes it's go outside by yourself. So going on a bike is like really the perfect thing for me. And then not to mention get out and see a little more of the country. So in terms of like how many routes, certainly I think I've explored most of the routes around the greater Chisinau area and beyond that, and but also I've had the opportunity to ride to the north, to the southern borders, to the east and western borders. So a good part of the country actually via the bike, and that was, I think, one of the joys, one of the things that really helped get me through COVID, like a lot of people, was focusing on the physical fitness aspect and setting goals. I mean, I set a goal to ride the bike from the north to the south of the country, and then from west to east.
Did you do that?
I did that, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I did that. And, with the purpose, having a goal, I wanted to see the country. I mean, Moldova was actually the right size, so I think I could actually do it. I also wanted to do something I hadn't done. I rode, it was, I think, around 150 miles, so kilometers, like 200 and maybe 20, 30.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In one day, which, I rode from the northern border to Chisinau, which is the longest I'd ever done.
For those who don't ride, it's a really long time to ride. Everything hurts after like the first 60 miles, and then later than that, it only gets worse. It's pro level distances.
Yeah, and the crazy thing, I really chose the wrong time. It was like a couple years ago. It was right during a heat wave, and so my wife. I somehow convinced my wife to basically follow me in our car, and basically her job was to carry all the water bottles, and I was basically having to go through a water bottle about every 15 minutes just to make it all the way.
Yeah, I rode this summer. I think it was 40 degrees Celsius. I came home dehydrated, confused. I didn't know what was going on, but I didn't have my wife drive behind me. And next time I'll do that for sure. But did you traveling in Moldova somehow influence the fact that you've actually promoted a lot of outdoorsy stuff, like the bike routes that have been open in the south, like the hiking route in Nisperain? It's a giant hiking route for all kinds of levels and different kinds of views. Did that influence it?
I mean, when I arrived, I arrived to a pretty incredible portfolio and team that was already doing a lot of these things. Tourism was an area which we were working. I think it made it, when the mission director comes in, I do get to say a little bit about, some of the things I like. And I think that it does have an influence. But, we do these things because they're based upon, strategies that we put in place and have real intentionality to, like, for example, it's not just going out to do a hiking route because someone wants to hike it. It's because,
the mission director wants to go hike, go build them a route.
Tourism is has real potential here. And, we want everybody to have a chance to come in and see more of the country and, and for the, Moldovans to host. I mean, I guess if I'm asked, to do one thing or another, and one is to go open, a incredible hiking trail in Nisperain, I'm going to probably do that or try to do that. So I certainly want to bring my interest and my excitement and my knowledge to it. And I think, my team feeds off of that and vice versa. And
if you were to pick one place that's your absolute favorite here, what would it be?
Come on, Alex. That's like impossible.
Winery is excluded.
Winery is excluded. I don't.
I'm a fan of the north.
You're a fan of the north,
yeah.
Huh? I do remember the first time I saw Kostes Lake. I was just blown away by how beautiful it was up there. And was able to actually do some stand-up paddleboarding. Which was fun and incredible. So I definitely appreciate the north. I mean, Sipava is beautiful. Down south, like on the on the border with Romania, was it Lake Balul? Is
Beleu.
Beleu, yeah, gotcha. Is absolutely gorgeous. Unfortunately, it's really under threat now due to climate change and other things. So, like many of the wonderful aspects, nature, et cetera, a lot of these things are really under threat. That's beautiful. But, I tell you, just a ride through the countryside, a ride through some of the vineyards, I think in terms of like what I learned riding, those moments, where you're sort of by yourself and you just get to see this absolutely incredible landscape, that's like unreal. And we associate like amazing vineyards with like parts of France and Provence or whatever. And here you're in Moldova, and it's like it doesn't get any, it's not any more beautiful. This place is really special in that regard.
That's part of what you were doing, from what I saw, is partners like the United States and the European Union and others are trying to convince us, guys, you have a great country. It's pretty. It's nice. You people are really cool. And we're kind of fighting back sometimes, right? No, it's not. No, we like to be poor. No, we have corruption. But not as much, How does that... I've always wondered, how does that feel for someone who comes in and tells the population, you have a really cool place to live in? And they're like, but we don't think so. Did you encounter that?
Well, I think there's an aspect to that, no matter where you are, where you're from. Sometimes it's hard to really be objective and appreciate where you come from. I would say that's even true where I come from. And, because some people, you grow up in a place, you know it too much, and you just think about like,
the bad stuff.
What's happening in other places, and you want to leave and go do something else and come back. I'm incredibly fortunate to have the job I do. I work in development, which, that's, you get to help people. So helping people and helping countries is a pretty, special occupation. And I've had the opportunity to do this in many countries around the world. And so I do have a bit of a perspective with that. But a lot of really what we do is it's about unlocking potential, and and again, I don't think this is necessarily unique to Moldova, but people all over the world, they maybe have a sense of what that potential is, but they don't fully know. And it's the reason you have friends, and that's what the U.S. is to Moldova, friend. It's to be there to help you see maybe the potential that you hadn't seen before, or to offer some advice or technical assistance and say, hey, what about this idea? Take your incredible idea and go in this direction. And I think it's more about that. I think that at least my experience here is that Moldovans are incredibly proud of their country. They love it here. I know a lot of people leave, but I always hear they want to come back. And there is an appreciation about how special it is. I just think there's aspects of development in which a partner like USAID can really contribute, not necessarily with resources, but just with advice or world-class technical assistance, or helping to find a market, or bring in maybe people together that hadn't thought to talk before, and those things then really set these ideas in motions, and they take it from there.
Off the top of your head, what was the most impressive project you worked on here that you were like, yeah, we did a great job here?
We did a great job here. That's hard because it's like you talk to. There's so many individual stories that are super amazing. I guess one thing that I saw kind of from start to finish was the Media Corps Center, and it's one of several centers of excellence that we've helped put together. In here now, there's one in Belt, Nortec. And what's really cool about them is it's about partnerships. It's about really bringing different stakeholders together: the government, the private sector, the donors, the academic institutions, the business associations, students, and giving them basically a space to be their best selves, to be creative, to bring ideas in, to learn from each other. And these kind of entities are kind of like the ideal for development, because they then take on
like mini Silicon Valleys.
They take on a life of their own, really. And and again, it's with us, it's just about sort of helping bringing people together, making a space that's cool, that's state of the art, that really facilitates these kinds of engagements. It gets people really excited. And to sort of see that partnership develop, to see the space develop, and to see all the activity associated with it has been special, So I definitely highlight that as one thing that I was able really to see from start to finish.
We have some great results too. Yeah, we have the Moldova for Peace campaign that launched last year when the war in Ukraine started, and it got a citizen engagement award at a global competition. So that was a pretty cool thing from the Moldovan tech industry.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. The response. I mean, look, I say that about all parts of society. After Putin's invasion of Ukraine, and that is just all. Whether it's municipalities, businesses, homes, bed and breakfasts, everybody stepping forward and doing everything they could. And you're right. I mean, the tech industry definitely was one of the ones that opened their doors immediately. They were. Not only were they giving professionals, Ukrainians, a place to work, but they were setting up daycare centers to take care of their kids. They were, allowing them to call and get in touch with their loved ones. I mean, it was really extraordinary to see that happen.
And that was basically a result of kind of giving the industry a push in this direction and in that direction, and expertise, and bringing people to teach, and events, and like my company and Agora as well. We're part of the core, right? So that offers us different opportunities, like, other from applying for specific calls, you can also get to go to different events that the association covers. So you can send your people to learn something, and you constantly get these new trainings or whatever that help your employees or yourself to get better and better. And that's also one of the results of just basically setting up a building, right?
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, it's just a building where some people work, but the effects of it are much bigger.
Yeah, and in the process of actually, the building is would be nothing if it didn't have the relationships, and the relationships in some cases take longer to fully gel and come together as actually constructing the building. And so I think we're fortunate to have the timing right, the relationships ready, the building's ready, and everything sort of comes together when it needs to.
During your mission, you focused a lot on sectors in the Moldovan economy, but we already spoke about tech and creative, and we spoke a little bit about tourism. How about we talk about the strengths and the current weaknesses that we have in these three?
Okay.
Let's start with the weaknesses.
Of what?
Of creativity, tech, and tourism.
Weakness. Alex, I'm going to struggle here because I don't like talking about weakness. Okay. But I guess I'll try. I mean, weakness to me is more about opportunities. And with creative, it's just about growing the sector. I mean, I think it's incredibly exciting. I think one of the weaknesses that we had is there really wasn't the degrees to support development in the sector, and that's something that we've been able to overcome recently with three degrees. Working with the university, working with private sector. Having the private sector, companies like Crunchyroll actually come in and help develop the curriculum and help do the training. Some of the connections between private sector and the institutions that really have to train the students and educate the students so that they basically come into it understanding and how to take advantage of it. So I think that's still something that needs to be worked on, strengthening that aspect of it, giving, obviously MediaCorps is incredible, but there needs to be more opportunities for Moldovans, young and old, to get involved.
Especially in the regions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why Nortec, I think, was really great in moving it to the north. And, the idea is that, there's potential creative talent everywhere in this country. And making sure that that talent finds an avenue to see, kids whatever age, to see if that's what they're interested in, and to see if that's something they can make a career out of and a life out of is something we need to do. I mean, it's also why again on the IT side, we have really worked with schools, with the Ministry of Education and others to push down technology into lower levels of the education system, so that
long-term effects, right?
Yeah, and so tech going to every school and future classrooms, things like that. Working with the Pedagogical Center to train teachers on this, which it's like that's one of my favorite spaces.
I'm so jealous of these kids right now, because you have a robotics class in every school.
I know. I know. I go to these, and they're showing me like I'm an adult, like I should know like all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, I really do pay attention when they're doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When they're like plugging the things into the fruit and making noises. I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna.
What sort of magic is that?
No, yeah. I mean, I have to go back to the internet and say, explain that to me again.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very impressed. And not only, I mean, you see what happens. I mean, one of the things, the coolest things that I saw when I first came in was the robotics team winning like the global championship.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, okay,
it's like 5 years ago we didn't have that.
If there's right, exactly, and if there's something that like it can make a country feel amazing about its future, is they have like their team like winning the team of robotics, which is obviously a sector that's couldn't be more important in terms of where we're at, globally.
And it can bloom here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they continue to, excel at the global level. It wasn't just like a one-off activity. I mean, I followed, that team to some extent. Now they're teaching, they've been teaching other kids. They're, moving out, and private sector sees, how talented they are and they're getting jobs. So there's really a practical impact to that as well.
It's good that they're staying in Moldova, because a fear that I have and everyone else is when someone gets to a certain level, they want to leave so they can, I guess, cash in on that. So the exodus of talent it's a big problem now everywhere, not just in Moldova, because I've read somewhere a big article about how it's actually cities now that have to fight for retaining the talent or attracting talent from somewhere else, because people don't care the country they live in anymore. So if I want to live in Milan, it doesn't matter to me that it's Italy, or I just want to live in Milan. So Milan as a city has to attract these talents and steal them from, I don't know, Venice, I guess, or somewhere else. And I'm thinking our cities, it's about time that they do the same, right? So imagine if you're in Jedinec, and like, I gotta attract some talent from Chisinau. But I think we're still far away from that, because our talents are still thinking, how do I go to the US, or how do I go to the European Union and sell my product or myself or whatever there for much bigger revenue than I could here.
Yeah, but that's interesting. I know I'm supposed to be talking about weaknesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the concerns on the IT side of things is that you train people up and then they leave. But that's an oversimplification of what actually happens. I think there's a lot of opportunities here. I was just at a company the other day, American company here, that was has 1,500 people that are using IT skills. I was like, wow,
in Moldova,
it's amazing, yeah.
Wow.
So there's actually a lot happening here, and a lot are staying. A lot do leave, but then a lot are coming back. And I would say more and more I'm hearing from Moldovans whether it's the tech or the creative and other industries are wanting to stay. And I think to your point, it's a lot easier to stay, because in many ways they're able to get paid the kind of wage that they would have, by traveling or working in Europe, and they get to stay here, which is where they want to, and raise their family here. And so I think I think that's changing very quickly too. But to your point, I think there will be a time when inside of Moldova they'll start to talk about which community is best. And fortunately, there is some pretty decent internet here. It needs to be better, but the more that connectivity can increase and improve, then the opportunities for Moldovans or people from anywhere really to come to Moldova and work and contribute to the local economy, which is going to be, I think, a positive thing for development.
Especially for the people looking to exit, city, urban environments. Hey, we have Starlink. You can literally go anywhere right now and you will have internet.
Yeah,
it's expensive, but at the same time, you have internet wherever you go. I have a friend in the US who is a nomad now. So there's a thing called... there's digital nomads for IT guys, and there's just regular nomads. He dropped everything, decided to take a year or two off just in his RV, bought a Starlink. He's traveling with his dog. He's having the best time of his life just because he has internet. So I'm thinking we could also, promote that as well. Like, hey, Moldova is a really cool place for RV if you have one.
No, but that's right. You have to really think about the industry in a dynamic way. And one of the things that USAID helped was to set up the Moldova Digital IT Park, and helped set in tax incentive to really get companies to come here. Made a huge difference. And so these are the kinds of things that we, I think, want to continue to work with the government, the private sector on, to ensure that, Moldova as a country is incentivizing companies to start here, to come here, do business here.
But from a strategic, to get back to the Exodus, from a strategic point, how do you calculate? We're going to have about 40% people that leave. How do we attract them back? Is that taken into account whenever you're planning on something that level?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it factored into our decision to focus on IT, for example, or creative, for example, or even some light industry. I mean, we support. We want to make companies and businesses better, and in that sense, we sort of have like the traditional side of things with tourism and wine and the cultural part, and then the newer part, which is IT. So it's things that are gonna excite youth. It's the jobs of the now and moving forward in the future. And these are the kinds of things that many Moldovans move away to get to. So if we work on those now, and like the salary for an IT worker has gone up almost to fivefold just in the past like 4 years. I think
I'm in the wrong job.
I think in 2018 it was like around in US dollars, like 5,000 to 6,000, and now you're looking at $22,000 a year. I mean, that's a huge increase, and and you get more businesses to come, you get an industry to grow. There's knock-on effects, and the development really starts to take off and deals with other factors too, that influence people. So that's why we do a lot of work in the democracy and governance. Jobs are super important, but corruption, I think we all know, has been a challenge here, and so helping to ensure that there are good judges and prosecutors that have integrity.
We seem to be bringing a lot of Americans lately.
Look, I think the case, though, that is, Moldovans have gone like all over the world, and there's certainly a lot of Moldovan Americans who, are just jumped at the opportunity to come back and help their country at a critical time. So, which is pretty cool.
Let's talk about the strengths of those three industries: tourism, IT, and creative.
Well, tourism, I mean, as you know, Alex, tourism is just sort of getting started, and then COVID hit, and that represented a bit of a challenge. But I think there's real opportunities here. Moldova represents an authentic experience, and tourists around the world are looking for a different experience. They maybe have gone and done a lot of these other things, and to go to Moldova, you go out and you spend time in the communities. You learn how to cook placenta. You try some homemade wine. You
milk a cow.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty. It's pretty cool, and it's unique, and stay in a rustic area, and just get to experience what Moldovan culture is all about. I think that's cool. And then we've heard to some of the sites, but there's some pretty special areas in the country too that people want to see, be a part of. I mean, I haven't really talked about Budajan or Trebujan. Orhivect is obviously I think one of the treasures of the country. A lot of probably more people visit there than most of the other areas, and all the things that have developed. Like I would say, Descarque was something that I was able to go to. I missed it the first couple of years because of COVID, and that's one of those moments where I was like, wow, this is.
Right?
Yeah, you're in the middle of this beautiful valley, and you have like this world-class talent, singing. It was just blown away.
I missed it this year. Even though I bought tickets, that was the saddest part, because I had tickets and I didn't go, and I'm still beating myself up to it. But what about creative? Everyone says it's the people. But aren't the people good everywhere?
Yeah, I that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know what. I don't know. I can't answer that. What it seems to me though is, and this isn't specific to the creative industry, but whenever I've engaged with Moldovans my entire time here, it doesn't matter what sector it's been in, like in ag, for example. I've just seen such imagination and creativity in the things that I've seen that almost seem like they're developed at home. It's like, I don't know if people, they were born with it.
You have to improvise.
Just born with like this aesthetic that to me, I'm very impressed by. Like people can just go in and like arrange something and make it beautiful and whatever. And I don't know. I just find it here. I think in general there's an ingenuity of here that I found across society, across sectors, and everywhere I meet that seems, I don't know if it's Moldovan, but I just seem to run into it all the time. And to me, ingenuity goes with creative. And, again, it's about giving kids the opportunity to let their imagination flow. And, obviously paying a salary helps. So I think because of those things, creative is an area that is probably going to do really well here.
Whenever more of a, I guess, financial question. Whenever people hear that USAID or anyone else is investing $150 million or $200 million or $300 million, what does that actually mean for the people? Because it's a number they could never imagine, right? It's a number they've never seen physically or in their bank account. So whenever a program starts like that, they ask themselves, how is that going to affect me directly? I know it's a tough question, but maybe you can explain how that works.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I wouldn't call it a tough question. It's a good question. And I think that with USAID, the way that we support Moldova, we do it in different ways. And some ways are a little bit easier to see and to understand. So I would say, like on a local level, one of the things we do is we work with the municipalities, the mayors, the councils, et cetera, to help them come together and basically put together development plans for their communities. And I think that's something that people can understand. They want to have a voice in what happens in their community. They want to see development and change happen in their community. And they have ideas, whether it's getting the school fixed or the local park renovated or streetlights put up. I mean, they have real ideas about that. And so we work with
so they access those funds.
We work with municipalities around the country, bring them together, show them how to do this, help them put together a plan, and then help co-fund that plan. So we provide a certain amount, and then the community provides a certain amount. Usually it's pretty close to being the same thing, and then they implement the project. And so I think that's one of the ways, the easiest to see, because it's it's the community's idea. Hey, we want to have some street lights, and we help them do that through our implementing partner. So I think that's one way to see it pretty direct. We work with local action groups as well, which is different mayors coming together, and they have basically kind of some seed money, to fund ideas, and different parts of the society can come and basically say, hey, we want to do this, and through that, by supporting business, help development in their communities. So that's one way. I think supporting the judicial sector and helping courts be a little more organized to digitize basically everything. So, we did that, I think, for some time by basically giving them an electronic system that manages it all. And then most recently through model courts. So we have model courts in Belt and Ungen and Ednets, and you basically can go in and have a much better experience with the court system, which allows like all the information you need digitally available. You can see everything in terms of like if you have time to go in, when it is. So really trying to help build trust between the community and the judicial system, which obviously is very important to them. So there's aspects like that which are very much tangible for like your normal citizens. But then there's other elements. We work with businesses, and so a lot of that, it's like knowing the business in their community and seeing them do well and continually to grow and do better in the wine industry is like a good example of that. Also, we work a lot in agriculture. So producers of like plums and apples and apricots and berries. So it's helping those products develop. A lot of those products end up going towards export, which is really important because obviously it helps those businesses grow. It brings revenues back to the country. I mean, these businesses, are taxed, and those revenues help the government do better. So I think there's that aspect to it. And then we work with the government at the national level, and that's something maybe is a little bit harder for like a person to see and understand. But they're as Moldova continues to develop, as it's working towards the EU, eventually, hopefully EU membership as a candidate. There are certain things that they have to do to put in place from a procedural perspective, from laws and regulations, et cetera. And we help the government do that. We help allow the government to then help private sector to do business in more countries. So expanding markets is basically getting out these amazing products like plums, so that more and more countries around the world realize, wow, plums are unbelievable here, and they are. I don't know if you're a plum fan, but
I did a whole episode about Moldovan plums.
You're kidding. Oh,
yeah,
gosh,
there's a project called Moldova Party, and I did. The first episode we did was about the plums and how great the exports of it has been, and how the Germans and the Dutch are now loving it.
Yeah.
And the answer to the question, why are they buying it, is always, it tastes so good. Like, how do you like write that? Buy our plums because they taste good. Yeah, that's basically what we do.
I mean, the Moldova fruit. I mean, taste makes a difference. I mean, that's their thing. So
yeah, I still remember my wife when we moved here and she had a tomato. She's like, "Oh, so that's how a tomato is supposed to taste like."
That's right. That's right. I mean, there's all these things why Moldovans love living here, because it's you can actually taste the food. It's that's different. And I think the quality is there. It's just a matter of getting the right variety, improving the packaging, improving the marketing, et cetera, so it's all known. I mean, that's where a lot of these successes and the success of the wine is come about, in those ways. So it's there's different aspects that are less visible than others, but there's really a collective whole and a collective strategy to it all.
So last question. It's a simple question, really. Can Moldova, or will Moldova, ever become a sort of small Switzerland, a small country but very strong and respected? Is that something that we should look forward to?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of potential examples out there. I mean, oftentimes we look at the Baltics, for example, and Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia. We've actually helped to do exchanges with Estonia, for example, because they've done a lot, like in the tech industry, that have developed and have become, in many ways, a regional tech powerhouse, and have like unicorns, these giant companies that come out of it. And so, obviously, Moldova is going to have its own path, but I think there are examples out there. I mean, I'm convinced. I mean, if that's a question, it's easy to me. Yeah, I'm convinced, definitely, that's it's going to happen. Just because what I've seen all around this country in terms of like the ingenuity, the drive, the passion, and a lot of times it just hasn't necessarily found the right outlet. But I increasingly see all these incredible characteristics finding an outlet for that, and an outlet that pays, which is good, and brings business and brings revenue and brings growth, and ultimately allows the country to develop, allows Moldovans to stay here and to develop the country and to develop a future, and I think that's pretty cool. And I think with the talent here, yeah, that's where I see things going. I mean, look, I'm an optimist. I couldn't be in this business if I wasn't. But I hope like there's one thing I've developed over the years is the ability to see potential, and I definitely see it here and see amazing things happening.
That's really good to hear. I really like that you said that, and that's what I'm trying to get out to people, including with this podcast, that, look, we are so concerned about the bad things that happen to us or around us, that we fail to sometimes grasp what's coming, Like, this is what we can do. This is what we should be doing. So it's kind of interesting to see how Moldova is still looking for itself 30 years into the making. Like, we're still trying to shape the country. Where are we going to go? Who are we going to be friends with? What sector we're going to invest into? And all at the same time, I think we're slowly kind of learning to embrace our differences, because someone wants to go this way and someone wants to go that way. So we're learning to compromise. And maybe we can be one of those places where everyone can find a place to be in, like business-wise, or because that's basically what we've been set up for since we've been in Eastern Europe at the border of worlds, right?
Yeah.
So why not use it to our advantage?
Yeah.
That's why I said Switzerland, because that's basically what they do as well, where they're located.
Well, we can come full circle a little bit too. I mean, I'm also really interested to see what happens on the sports front here. It'd be great to see Moldova become a site for future athletic activities. I mean, we haven't talked about it that much, but cycling and like gravel riding is something that's really becoming more and more popular, and this is like really getting into my specific personal interest.
Gravel riding through wineries.
Gravel, exactly. I mean, obviously not when it's raining, because everyone knows the mud here is like world class too. But there's different ways to really building off tourism, but also I think helping to instill and build a culture of health, in Moldova too, is sort of like the dual positive aspects of that. But I mean, there's a great community, runners and bikers here, and
they're promoting tourism, right, through their competition. You have La Fetești, you have Dragonul Orhei Vechi, you have something in the south, you have something more north. It's like that's how you attract tourism. Is you have the people go there for a run, and they're like, oh, look at this place.
Yeah, the marathon this year was good. I just ran half. I did not run the full marathon, but it was a great experience. People were super excited, and so you have these events that are in addition to things like the wine festival, which obviously everybody gets super excited about, and I mean, these are also ways to connect different tourism spots in rural areas.
We should hand out a pair of shoes and a bottle of wine to whoever enters the country.
And a pair of shoes. That's a good
like
idea.
If you run, here's this. If you hike, here's this, and here's a bottle. Welcome to Moldova. You'll need it.
Well, look, the thing I can say, and Alex, as you've known, I mean, obviously the circumstances are terrible, but what's happened to Ukraine right now has also brought a lot of attention to Moldova, and we've seen more visitors come into the country than ever before, and so in a sense that's another indicator of like how are things here. And I can say that every person that's come through here, and a lot of them are diplomats at the highest level, have come away so impressed with what they saw here. I mean, the hospitality obviously is world class, the people come away affected. I mean, they come away affected. They have a great experience. They go back and they tell their family, friends, colleagues. So I think that more than anything is just the experience that people have when they come and interact with Moldovans. That's maybe the greatest gift of all.
So we should definitely hook them up with something. Well, Scott, thank you very much for coming again. I had a great talk, and I hope to see you come back soon. Really, really, in order for us to learn what else you have discovered about Moldova. Prieteni, civace, doamnelor și domnilor, eu tare vă mulțumesc pentru faptul că ați ascultat acest podcast. Sper că ați văzut excitementul de care dă dovadă cei care vin să ne ajute pe noi să construim o țară mai ca afară, și le mulțumesc tuturor celor care sunt membri ai comunității Agora, pentru că datorită vouă și curajului vostru apar produse media interesante, cum ar fi Prepare for Future. Mersi!